Would everyone take your seats, please?
Rick, what's up, man? Hey.
We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, please. Would everyone rise for the invocation? And Pastor Russ Wynn, would you please come forward?
Let us pray together, please. Father, we recognize you as our Creator, and we thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy here in America. Thank you for the men and women who serve in leadership on our council as they address the issues facing our city, provide them with the insight needed to propel our community into the right direction. Protect our men and women in harm's way, bring them home safely, and we pray that your hand will be upon this nation in our upcoming election. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Slika, could you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman McIntosh? Here. Councilwoman Martin?
Here.
Councilman Slapka?
Here.
Mayor Nelson?
Here.
Councilman Simmons?
Here.
Councilwoman Simons?
Here.
Councilman Lockhart?
Here.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mayor. Morning.
Hey, nicely done. All right. We're here for public comment on agenda items only. Anyone wishing to speak in regards to an agenda item, please come forward.
Yeah, good morning. Rick Steinmeier. We're talking about Old 41 south from Bonita Beach Road down to the city limit. Last year, the Lee County put a 4-foot paved berm on both sides of Hickory Boulevard, which is 2 miles long. In about 5 weeks' time, they said it was like $500,000. I don't know how far it is from the beach road down to the railroad tracks or wherever the city line is there. They didn't put fill in. They had a machine that dug a 5-inch deep trough along the one on both sides, and then they put 2 different layers of macadam. Then they ground down the road surface and resurfaced the whole thing, which made no seam and no crack in it, and it was done in about 5 weeks by Paving Management Incorporated. I believe it was a subcontractor. That could be done in a hurry and make things a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Deborah McLean with the Banana Peel. With regard to the casino issue, I do not know if Carol Green, who is our lobbyist for the city in Tallahassee, can help us lobbying at the county level. That's my main question, because I think that her time might be better used on this issue because it will provide good, solid jobs and a good source of revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time, please come forward about any agenda item.
Morning.
Morning.
Ron Pure, Bonita Springs, and TAG. I'd like to hand this out to the council, just for a frame of reference. It's real small print. I couldn't do any better on the printing of it, but that's how it goes. That's what they feed you over the internet. I'd like to address the BSU quickly amendment that you folks are going to discuss. I'd like to for you to consider, instead of identifying the $49,000 as being dedicated to economic development, just instead put it into the general fund and do with it anything other than giving it to perhaps the Economic Development Commission. So far, my calculations are we're over about $200,000 in what we've devoted as a city to the care and feeding of that organization. So again, please direct it to the general fund. You know the details. I don't have the time to get into them. The slot machine enterprise that's coming to the city, fantastic. I'm sure many are looking forward to it, and I think it'll have a whoppingly big positive result at the polls in Lee County, because it is county-wide after all. And most of the folks in the county probably don't give a dang what goes on in Bonita, but we're going to have to suffer the consequences, the negative consequences, along with the positive stuff that they will bring to the city. At this point, and again, because time doesn't permit me to get into all the research and so on we've been doing, I think that the city hasn't gone far enough with respect to getting a commitment from the Havenick family with respect to what they have offered. I think we've got to be. I think we've got to up the negotiations and get a little bit down and hotter in what we would expect them to come and bring to the city and pay to the city as a piece of their action. And lest we forget that it is not only slots that will be enhancing that enterprise, like the movie industry. You go to a theater, it's not just the movie ticket sales. It's the popcorn and the candy and the booze and the beverages and the dinners and the barbecues and so on that will add significantly to the overall gross revenue of that outfit. The numbers are very large, at least in places like Hallandale. And Bonita Springs ain't no Hallandale. We've got a lot to offer here. We're a bump above that, and I would hope that you folks would raise the bar considerably with respect to where we stand at this point. Really knock the percentage of our take up off of the slot machine grosses. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Morning, Mr. Mayor and council people.
Morning.
My name is Dave J. I'm from Bonita Springs. I'm suggesting the mayor and the board that you try to push for a higher franchise fee or tax on the casino than 1.5%. I'd email you a link to the National Council of State Legislators, which shows that the average casino tax is between 8 and 15%. 1.5 seems very paltry by comparison, and I understand that you are trying to push up a little bit higher than that, but it's it's low regarding the impact. Secondly, I'm hoping that you might consider some good government, some ethic issues about prohibiting city employees or elected officials or immediate family members to work for or invest in the Gaming Institute. We have all kinds of potential here. In fact, other states, in fact, do have boards regarding ownership there. Third is that this sort of franchise or licensure or approval be renewed every 5 years. There's always unintended consequences. There are technology changes that we see, and there may be a necessity for a future board, particularly with term limits, to make adjustments. And then finally, I would hope for your consideration to prohibit elected officials and candidates from Bonita Springs city offices from accepting campaign contributions directly from or employees of or agents of this gambling house and dog racetrack. So if it can be as transparent and as arm's length as possible, then perhaps the issues will be judged on items that reflect the greater community's efforts. Finally, I wish that there would have been an opportunity for the city itself to weigh in on an advisory vote. We didn't have that during the last city council election, so we find ourselves in a very weak position where the entire Lee County voters are going to tell us what we're going to have in our backyard, not just the gateway to the beaches, but the entire community in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Anyone else wishing to speak on an agenda item, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed with proclamations and presentations. And, okay, here we go. Thank you. Could John Dahmer and his CH2M Hill team please come forward?
Mike Kirby.
How you doing? Hey, nice to see you. How is it?
Oh,
look so
Michael.
dumber. What are you doing here?
Ed Bourne wants me to talk to you about palm trees and how we can get something out. I'll talk to you. You know who Ed Bourne is, right?
just so everybody knows, CH2M Hill does our permitting, of course, and work and our community development work for zoning and everything, doing a great job. It's been quite the transition for, I think, everyone, for CH2M Hill, for the employees, for the city. Right now, they are just doing spectacularly. So thank you very much for all your work that you do. This, however, has probably nothing to do with that, other than CH2M Hill, the corporation, has shown its great citizenship there, and by doing some landscaping and planting underneath Bonita's banyan tree. They did a wonderful job. And I have to tell you, just from a personal standpoint, people have talked about what should happen there for probably the last, I don't know, since it's been planted. The plan that you came up with is amazing. It's exactly what was needed. And for me, thank you so much, from somebody who's spent a lot of time playing in the tree. Just yesterday, no, I mean, when I was a kid. Thank you so much for doing that. It is really great. And this is a certificate of appreciation presented to CH2M Hills, and for the donation of a landscaping plan and the improvements to Bonita Springs Historic Banyan Tree. Again, thank you on behalf of the citizens and this city council. Thank you so much for what you did. Nice job. Well done. Everyone, please give them a real hand. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. This was definitely a team effort. Those that dug the holes for the vegetation and those that covered for us that were digging holes. So thank you very much. And it also moves things along when you get to be the agency that permits your work.
That's good to know. But anyway, thank you. Get a picture? Here we go. Nicely done. Thank you very much.
We're covered, huh?
Okay, at this time, we're going to do a review of legislative proposals and direction to staff. Our lobbyist is here today. Carl, would you like to introduce?
Sure. Carol Green is with us today. She's our lobbyist and has been for a number of years. And Carol, if you'll come up.
And Ashley.
Council will recall we gave you a green sheet along with the packet for today, and listed a number of issues, 17 of them, that have been submitted by council members with regards to possible legislative priorities for this coming session. The timing is important because committee work will begin relatively soon for the session in the spring. And it's important that coming out of today's meeting, at least we get some direction from council with regards to the top 5 priorities with regards to those things that we would like them to be advocating on our behalf. I want to say that Carol's part of actually our team, and Ashley is part of our team, that really it's important for the elected officials and for staff members to be involved in this effort throughout the session. In fact, there will be times, I'm sure, when Carol will call up and say, somebody better come up here, and it better be an elected official, and we know that a number of you have already done that in the past, and we appreciate that. What we submitted to you was this list. You may want to have some further discussion with regards to what the list actually means, and we're hoping, like I say, with Carol's input, we'll be able to come out with some kind of direction on priorities for today. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay. Carol, do you just want to kind of give us an overview of what you might think the session maybe entail for us, and maybe a little advice about how we select our legislative priorities?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we're pleased to be with you today when we're actually here and not doing it over the phone or Skyping or any of those types of things, that we're actually in person. It's great to have Ashley with us today because she's not always with us, but she's the person who's actually watching everything in the background and certainly flagging all of the issues, helping me to get some direction to those things. So I know that she probably can weigh in with some of these issues that we know you're very concerned about too. As we get ready to go forward this year, it's going to be a bit of a challenge in the fact that it is an election year, so we are going to be looking at some new folks that we have the opportunity to educate about our area and about some of the issues that are very important to us. We also have a lot of friends who'll be going back, so we're really happy to be able to work with them, and they have been friends and they will continue to be friends of the city. So we're really looking forward to working with them. And that in that vein, I've already taken it upon myself to reach out to our representative elected to this area, Raymond Rodriguez. I've had an opportunity to meet with him once to educate him a little bit on some of the things, and I'll be working with Carl to set up a time for Mr. Rodriguez to come back and get to meet all of you and get an opportunity to hear from you. But I thought it was best if we first get all of this ranking in order, and then we'll take some of his time and be able to do that. The listing that we have looked at so far, many of the things are things that we're revisiting. It's kind of that Groundhog Day issue when it comes to a few of these things. So there are things that we're certainly very familiar with, although they'll take on a different, probably a different face this year, because we haven't seen any bills yet, because we're still in that process of knowing that these issues are going to come up, but we haven't seen any words on paper. And until we do that, it's hard to evaluate exactly what's going to happen. We do know for a fact that fertilizer is coming back. We do know that water quality issues will be there. We do know that gaming issues will be there. We know that all of those things are going to happen. We don't know exactly what that face is going to look like until we actually get that in front of us. I think some of the other issues that you're looking at, obviously we can talk about Oak Creek funding. That's an issue that's very important to each and every one of us. And the governor, and every year is a new year, and things change, and people change, and we'll see how we can work through that, and massage that one a little bit. We just have to find that place in the budget that is not quite glaring. How's that? And have an opportunity to address it from that venue. Ashley, do you have things you'd like to add in that regard?
The only other issue that we didn't really talk about in your presentation was energy. That's going to come back again. Last year there were several bills. I can think of at least 5 or 6 off the top of my head.
Yeah, Ashley, I have to get
I'm
you to.
sorry. Sorry about that. I'm usually pretty loud and don't need
No,
a
you
microphone.
you were doing well. Actually.
Yeah, I have 3 children. You have to be loud with 3 boys. Last year, as I said, we had several energy bills that came up. I think one big one that passed. I can't remember the number of it off the top of my head. So that'll be back for sure. Several members have a specialty in that area. So that's the only other thing. Fertilizer, poor Martha. Every year, fertilizer is a pain.
Worse this year, too.
It is. It is going to be. It's going to come back with a vengeance. Every year it does. Other than that, maybe beach renourishment, that was an issue last year. Pensions, I don't know how much you guys want to do with the fire rescue district pension, but those seem to come up every single year. We talk about pensions in some vein. So that's it, just to add on to what you said.
You know that we spend a great deal of time, and Ashley specifically spends a great deal of time making sure that as we flag each of the issues that come up, I think we usually end up monitoring about 130 or 150 bills, something like that, just for the city, monitoring them to see if there is any movement on them, because we're playing defense a lot of the time. So I think that in looking at the issues that you have in front of you here, and the ones that I know Carl and I have talked about a little bit too, it's really looking at what are those that you really want to be proactive about. Obviously we're going to watch your back, keep things away at bay.
Every one of these issues will come up in a bill, I'm sure, and we'll be
Right.
watching every single one of those, and it's more important to watch for the amendments that can come on to those bills than sometimes the actual bill language. So even if one of these issues isn't ranked today, we're still going to watch all of these issues throughout the process, and sometimes an issue that you thought was number 1 will end up being at the bottom of the pile because it's just not going to go anywhere, and an issue that you weren't worried about all of a sudden becomes a priority. So I know most of you know that. Some of you are new to this process, but this is fluid. It's going to change throughout the process. So I know we'll get our marching orders and move forward, and then it'll change.
So to kind of paraphrase here, if it's an area of concern that we just want to watch, it does no good to rank it, because it's not like you're going to watch it extra careful. Is that true?
We're going to watch it.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless.
So I mean, in other words, the ones we should probably concentrate on ranking on, shouldn't they be ones that we're going to be proactive on?
Like
Yes, sir.
fertilizer.
Yes.
For example.
Are you saying what I said is fertilizer? Or
No, Mr.
I've never
Mayor,
had somebody
that's
say
not
that, so
what I was implying.
just right to my
We
face.
we don't have our boots on, but we do have high heels on, okay?
Usually it's a blogger that says that, but that's all right. Go right ahead.
Your answer is yes, sir.
Writing that down.
Yes, sir.
Ashley.
Yes,
Right here.
I knew I shouldn't bring her along this morning.
Why, she's part of the team, right?
I'm your person.
So anyway, is that fair to say? Is that
Yes,
you know
sir.
that the things we're going to be proactive on, the things that we're going to actually actively lobby on, right? Those are priorities. I mean,
Yes, sir, and
Council,
that-
would you agree,
Right.
Council? And the rest of them, if we're going to watch out after a lot of these things, we can't really take a position until we know what the legislation is going to be.
That is correct. Yeah,
and that's when you'll come to us and go, oh, we got a problem.
We need something. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need a decision.
Okay. All right.
That's when we reach out to Carl and say, we either send him an email, or if it's really important, we get him on the phone and say, this is something we've got to have a decision about right now. Because Ashley brings up a really good point. A lot of times the bill may be okay, but the amendment that happens sometimes overnight, and sometimes usually, and could be 5 pages long. Sometimes we need to really rewrite the bill, exactly. So those are the things that we really have to watch, especially as we get towards the end.
Okay. All right. Council, I have an idea of how to proceed here, but I'm just going to go around the table here and see how you want to proceed. We have 17 some odd items down there, some that seem very broad in nature. We do have a few of these that have been done. Can I go ahead and go down kind of this list of
Please.
kind of things that we might want to consider, and just kind of go from there. And then at the end, if there's something that we missed, we'll go ahead and chime in and say, hey, let's consider these other things. How about that? Just to try to get the ball rolling?
Absolutely.
That'd be all right?
Do you have that list?
Yes, the same list I think was, the same list is on the green sheet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Same one that we-
and looking at what the items that were turned in here, that were just given to me just here recently, it looks like proactive things, fertilizer legislation, that seems to rank rather highly as something in being proactive, and then beach renourishment was, and what that, I guess, for everybody's edification out there, we want to be sure that the state continues to fund beach renourishment. I think that's what we want them to do, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a threat? Maybe ask Carol if that's a threat.
I think is that something that we should be fearful of? I mean, or that seems to be something that they may want to take away, or is that just something we should watch out for?
I believe it's something we need to watch out for. I don't believe that we're under any threat in particular in that regard. We are seeing some positives, and Ashley and I had a conversation about this yesterday. We are seeing some positives when it comes to the revenue expectations for the state, but I would just caution you that positives doesn't mean increase. Positive means filling holes that we've had and the reductions we've seen over the last few years. So I don't think that we're going to see anyone that's going to advocate in a state like this that we shouldn't watch beach renourishment.
Okay, all right. So to that end, I think that comes in, beach renourishment would become under the heading of something we should watch for. And all right. So we still got the fertilizer thing there. Should we I think a lot of these things fall under home rule authority, and is to be proactive. And I think be proactive in protecting our home rule authority. Council, is that's something that's always been resonated with us? Is that something that we should?
Want to comment on that?
On home rule?
Not what you just commented to me about?
Oh.
Yeah. It is very broad, as Martha points out, and it encompasses many of the things underneath this. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's the conversation that I had with Carol when we were sitting in the audience. Is home rule falls under many, many bills, whether it's a mandate or just keeping protections for you to be able to do what you need. Yeah, probably over half our bills have to do that we flag have to do with home rule.
Yeah,
So-
and probably the main reason that you are here and that you do work for the city is to protect the city's home rule authority.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean these things, because if we weren't worried about what the legislation was going to do and how it would affect us, you wouldn't be here.
Job security, sir.
So there you go. So council, home rule authority is one of our top priorities, I would think. Council, what about this? It's been mentioned here. When it comes to the fire district pension reform. Now, what is council taking a position one way or the other? Do you want it to, I mean, Martha, go ahead on that one.
Yeah, Mayor, I just know that it's been stated that's going to be a big issue in Tallahassee this year, pension reform, both by the Florida League of Cities, and the union hates that. But whatever our Bonita Fire District comes up with, and I know they've been proactive. They actually led on some of these issues in the state, ahead of more like pension protection, ahead of other districts and other fire departments. And we might want to just support their lead, maybe in a small way, just write a letter saying we support our fire district or whatever like that.
But legislatively, is that anything
no?
that
No,
we need
I
to-
don't. No,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
I don't know that we need to do that because it's not connected to the city. And
Okay.
if I could at a later date just hit some of these items from what I heard at the Florida League of Cities, what
Okay.
the potential is. Maybe Carol can confirm or not.
Okay, Bill.
Thank you, Ben. In reference to the pension plans, I spoke to a Bonita Springs fire official, and he indicated they're still using 8% as the rate of return on the investment assets. And of course, that hasn't been true in 4 years. And I think that's important for all pension plans. Historically, many times it was much larger than that, but we're not in a circumstance in the last 6 years especially that that kind of rate can be maintained. So I think it's a serious matter for all places, not only in Bonita, but all over the country. So that's something that I heard, but I don't know if that's still a fact that it's 8%.
Okay, well, wouldn't it be probably really more of a concern for us? We should probably watch out for what the governor may have in mind or what the legislation may have in mind for the Florida system that we participate in. Shouldn't we be watching out for changes in that regard? Probably more
Yes, sir.
so.
And I can tell you there have been changes, and there's certainly legal battles going on currently in that regard from changes that have been made previously. So yes, we can put that on the watch list. And whether it's I don't know obviously
I
what
was
the
given that
percentage is,
number.
but certainly understand what you're saying in that regard. So no, we can put that on the watch list. And yes, I would suppose there's going to be some action on that.
Okay, so we can put that on the watch list. That would be great. A couple other ones here. Of course, Oak Creek funding. That is one that was very proactive, one that we want to do, and I think that's great. And if we could refer to that as Oak Creek Imperial, because I think that maybe that intersection there is something that's good to kind of put that in
And-
there if we could in the language. Yes.
When I was at the Florida League of Cities in August at the convention conference, I don't know if I told you this, Carol, but I ran into the governor. Well, I ran him down, but
That's hard to imagine.
yeah, but he said to somebody next to me, he said, "Well, whatever you need us to do, you need something, just call me." And I was like, "Oh, my opportunity. Okay, well, we need something, the last 2 years it got vetoed, and God bless you, I just need to get that money for Oak Creek because, well, I have my own budget that I promote. I just had to veto that because the group said that we had to do that. I said, well, then I think that's an opportunity, and we'll just get back to my city council, and I bet you will be getting in touch with you about that. So there you go.
Okay, good. Then as they go down the line, so I think that is a proactive one. Obviously, that's proactive. It's something we're asking for, so I think that's very proactive. When it comes to a lot of these, I'm gonna clump some of these together here. Oh, let me talk about another one. The TDC fair representation. That is another one that we're going to need to be proactive on, right? So
Yes, and we were last year, and we have already been talking about that with Senator Richter. Senator Richter was our lead person on that last year, and his staff member, Michael, and they kept us in the loop on everything that they were doing, and it's my understanding that they are going to continue to go forward with that, and we will certainly be meeting with them early on in that regard.
And I will just tell you, last year, we made a great friend in the staff member on Senator Richter office, Michael. And so we'll be doing that as well as working with Commissioner John Manning on this issue locally.
Okay, good. let's see. So fertilizer, home rule, Oak Creek, TDC representation. Those seem to be fairly proactive things that we need to address. When it comes to, I think, we will go in a lot of conversation here, but when it comes to a lot of these things, even water quality issues, those are issues that you're going to watch out for legislatively, whatever, in protecting our home rule authority and watching out for those regulations. As that legislation is produced, you'll come back to us and say, hey, look, is this something you want to support or stay out of or want us to come up against? Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And the same goes with probably a lot of these other things. Let's talk about the state. It says clarify or remove state restrictions on slot gaming at Parametry facilities. Is that something that we just need to keep an eye on to be sure that something doesn't change? Or because, I mean, and I don't know who I'm asking, I guess council or Carl?
Well, and maybe Audrey, but my understanding is, and I think this should be on the proactive list, and that would make 5 on our list, because based upon what happens in November at the election, my understanding is something's going to need to happen at the state level as well. Audrey's shaking her head yes. You can weigh in here, Audrey, if you want. You're being amazingly quiet today, so just weigh in here.
Audrey.
Okay.
This is awesome. I got to make her talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say, yeah, I just won't let up, will I?
As I understand it, there does need to be some statutory amendments to make sure that in Chapter 551, dealing with the slot machines, to perfect everything through the process. But of course, first is the referendum, and then the slot machine changes.
Okay. I do think, Council, I would suggest that we be fairly specific about what we are trying to do here for the public's edification, so that we don't just say, support gambling or do something.
If I could,
and I'm just saying, with our instructions to our lobbyists, I want the public to be clear on what it is we're asking them to do.
I would hope that the instructions are twofold. I haven't really talked to Carol about the issue. The first issue is, depending on City Council's vote on the development agreement as well as the referendum, obviously if the referendum does not pass, then we probably will not ask Carol Green to be too involved in the process, except still protect whatever interest if we do look for future referendum. But if it does pass, of course, we will have a very vested interest in the issue, given the fact that it does affect a facility in our location. The second issue, which is still a problem that we had hoped that the legislature would address, they have not addressed it yet, and that's internet cafes, which are not slot machines. They are actually sweepstake cards. I still think it's gambling under gambling, but hey, the Attorney General and I can disagree on that one. Some people call it a loophole. Some people just think it's an enforcement issue. Some sheriffs enforce it around the state, some don't. We hope that the legislature would address that issue, and I'd hope City Council would be concerned, because that does affect many seniors.
Okay, and so part one of that under gaming, we'll say, will be to go ahead and encourage or see that the statutes and the laws are perfected in a way that will allow, if this referendum is passed, that will allow that to happen. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the other one you would ask for underneath that same one would be for us to encourage.
To encourage legislation to regulate internet cafes, which are the places you see in almost every shopping strip.
Carol, do you have something?
Well, just that I believe that will come up again, because it's a very hot button issue. I can tell you that we do know the folks that were pushing very hard on regulation or on elimination, if you will. Most of those have already gotten through their races. They're going to go back, and they're going to be in Tallahassee, and I know that they feel passionately about that issue. So yes, I believe it will come up again. It'll be another battle, because there are a lot of people who are very pro internet cafes. So
yeah, I see them parked in front of them all the time.
Well, I mean, the public record will show that even we have some people who are extremely vested in that, who are elected officials, and so
Ugh, that didn't sound good.
Well, not here. I mean, but we have some legislators. We have legislators who are very involved in that.
Oh, you don't mean actually?
No, I mean
actually
no,
invested.
no, no,
Okay.
no. I want to clarify what I've said. We do know that we have legislators who have that as their income source. So we do know that that happens. It's a legal
darn.
entity. So.
Well, next thing you know, they'll be.
debatable, but yeah.
Well, at this time it
At
is.
this time, it's not, right. It depends on how one looks at the
Okay,
statutes.
but
So there's a vested interest
regardless,
on both
regardless, that's
sides.
something that we're going to be whittling on.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 5, council, and now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start with Bill at this end here, and we're going to see if you're content with these 5, or if there is another one you would like to replace.
I'm content with the 5.
Okay, good. And Martha, comments on the 5, and here's the 5. The fertilizer, be supportive of our right to
Sure.
our home rule authority on fertilizer ordinances. Home rule authority in general, I mean, on all these specific items. Oak Creek / Imperial River, seek funding for that. TDC representation, we need to be proactive on that. And by TDC representation, we want to improve the situation, not make it
Absolutely.
worse. Great, I guess that's important to tell you.
I kind of guessed that, but
and
yes,
then,
okay.
And then the gaming, so far as what we talked about there, are 2 different things. Okay, Martha, and what do you have in your comments and
Yeah, well,
suggestions?
that's almost 5 out of 5. So I'm pretty happy with that. I would like to talk about just 2 things. One is TDC representation. I brought this up last year because we won't get a seat until 2021 on the TDC, and our stakeholders in our community are collecting and delivering to the county tax collector bed tax, which has funded lots of things in the county, and we want to have some of that invested, or more of that invested in our community. And having a seat at the table certainly helps. So when we were up in Tallahassee last year, there was discussion with Senator Richter, but he was also discussing on behalf of Fort Myers Beach. Is he representing them again this year? Yes? Will he be representing? Is that in his
Think of the
district?
line.
That's
No,
not in his
I don't think so.
district?
Yes.
He goes up to Sanibel and Boca Raton. Is that him or?
I'm so sorry. Right now I'm going to have to visualize
Okay.
where all those lines
Well,
go.
I think that's important to know because as our neighbors, I think their lobbying position was different than ours. And so we might want to also have some conversation with them about that, about what TDC representation means to us and why it's important for us as well as for them, and come to some position so we're not lobbying against each other with our own state senator. You know what I mean? Okay. And the other thing, 2 things real quick. Dog track issues. I hope that we can also include under that banner the remove state regulations on the mandatory 400 performances that our dog track has to perform. I'm coming from the dogs position, but also from a business position. It's not a winning proposition to tell businesses how many times they have to do something. If, a pizza place wants to sell 100 pizzas a night, fine. If they want to sell 400, great. But, why are we telling, right? Okay. And I hope, council, that you would agree with that. My top priority, and I don't know if we're going to get anywhere with this, but maybe we can just, as a council, send some letters to the state legislature on the statewide energy policy. This is an economic development issue for our state, and we've been dragging our feet. I think it's 38 other states have an economic development policy, and we don't have one, and we're missing the boat on what I see as the next, we had the dot-com revolution. What happens in energy in the world is a geopolitical and economic development concern, and we're just missing that one. Also, under that banner is the nuclear recovery costs. This was our discussion at the Florida League of Cities this year. The 2 top issues that rose to the cream on the top were energy policy and what's happening with the fact that Florida Power is now charging us all $1.69 a month so that they can build a nuclear power plant. But there's no guarantee that they will build those 2 nuclear power plants, much less service us with that power. And they're already over at 30% capacity of generating electricity in the state. So that's a big hullabaloo. And I know that another council member must put this down because I didn't write that. So, and I think I know who it is. So I would like us to at least have a voice in that. That seems to be very important. Otherwise, I'm very happy with what we've chosen. And also, Cutler Bay will be going up again. Cutler Bay doesn't like plastic bags. And, they're bad for sea turtles and all small living things. And they are going to be going up. It'll be interesting to watch, Audrey, but they're going to be going into the face of Florida law and just banning them in their city, and see what happens.
If I may,
Yeah.
I believe
If
that
you pull the microphone closer to yourself, a little closer.
I believe that the solid waste provision had a preemption, but that preemption had a grandfathering period. Allow me to research it, because if the preemption is over, you can adopt, it was for a time period for the state solid waste folks to be able to study the issue.
Yes.
So if the time is over, we can proceed with an ordinance.
Well, that'd be really
Let me
cool
take
if
a
we
look
could
at
do that.
that.
Take a look I just put it on the list because it was one of those legislative things that had come up in the past where we were preempted and the preemption might be over. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, my friend.
Hi.
Pete, what you got?
Happy with the 5, but
Okay.
as most members of my family, I would like to push for a little more, and I guess the one more, the asterisk, if you will. Education. Obviously, recently, Governor Scott is going around the state listening tour, I think he's calling it, on education. I know this is ongoing. Obviously, he's bringing it to the forefront as that evolves for funding for education, and we need to lobby and get in touch with our local lawmakers. Please, I'm sure you'll let us know that. And then I guess a subset of that is funding for charter schools. Currently, I think it's in the low 70s. Do you know the exact number offhand?
I don't, but I do know that it's a very big issue. I know, in fact, yesterday I had heard several comments about that in regards to the funding for charter schools. It's obviously hitting our newspapers, and so I'm fairly certain that there is an active group that are looking for changing the way that charter schools are funded.
Right. So, I guess, and maybe if it's, I'd be more than happy if you could let me know when that's coming up or coming to the forefront. I'd be happy to come to Tallahassee, happy to make calls, happy to reach out and network and push that forward and get more funding.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Pete?
No, thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much. Steve?
Okay with the 5.
You okay with the 5? Good. Janet?
Absolutely okay with the 5, and I do know that you guys keep your fingers on the pulse. You've done it in the past, so that I know that you know what our priorities are, and that if something comes up, you're certainly going to let us know what that is, so we can all rally if necessary. And I guess I'd like to just add a 5+, and that would be to support the energy also.
Okay. All right, good. Steve?
Thank you. As you know,
Sure.
I've sent you several notes, but until we get legislation corrected on power generation, we're never going to be energy sufficient and free from the world domination of energy. And I recognize it's like pushing something very heavy uphill, but we have the ability in Florida to create solar power. But until we have the ability to be able to do it as entrepreneurs, we're not going to be able to do that. So please keep working at that. And in the area of education, we've now had our only charter high school in Bonita closed because it is a charter school and they have to make money, and we didn't have enough students to do that. And that's an alternative high school where there are no places for these kids to go because they can't make it in the normal high school setting. So we've got to get this education thing straightened out on charter schools and public schools in general.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so as it stands here, with the 5, we have let's paraphrase, fertilizer, home rule, Oak Creek, TDC representation, and gaming issues. And we'll add to that kind of an extra look and some extra vigilance on educational funding issues and in developing an energy policy that I would say that, I guess, Steve, with some help from you, that will allow for other people, like putting solar panels on roofs and being able to get money back and go into the system, which we're precluded from doing, all types of stuff like that in positive issues, okay?
Ben, may I?
Yes?
How do we feel about sticking the dog racing requirements under there as well? Do we have an opinion about that? And also the state energy policy. I've been giving the council member, McIntosh, I'd be happy to report on what we're doing on the state legislative policy committee as well. But how do we feel about that dog requirement thing?
Well, personally myself, and we'll go around the table, but I'd like to know more about that, and because I don't want to say one way or the other, until we see how this kind of pans out with the slots and how that might affect it. And so I'm not sure about it, whether I want to take a position on that right now or not. So, Council, do you want to take a position on whether there should be more dog races or less dog races there, or that requirement should be removed, or do you want to kind of set that aside for now, or what would you like to do?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes?
I might.
Hi.
We certainly will have that on our watch list, and we'll watch to see what kind of legislation actually is formulated. And once it's formulated and we actually have the verbiage, we'll be glad to send that to you so that you can make a determination at that point.
I think that's a good prudent way to do it, is to see how the legislation, because I'm sure there's interest out there one way or the other, and when it comes to, we can go ahead and take a position at that time.
May I
Yes.
add that our dog race track here, the owners have teamed up with Greyhound Y2K, which is the Greyhound Advocacy Group, to ask that legislation be changed so that they're not required to run the dogs as much. And I think that's a good position, and one that we should support.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Good. Yes?
And we work very closely, actually, with the owners here. I know they're here today, too. We see them in Tallahassee, and we keep the lines of communication open there.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
Can I only make one other comment
Yes.
about the energy issue? And as we've been talking here while you've been deliberating, the energy issue is a huge issue. There's a lot of vested interest in that one, too. We know that Adam Putnam is working very diligently on his own plans and trying to bring people to the table on that, and certainly see that there may be a lot of talk again this year. We'd always hope that it's not just talk, but it is a big issue to get your arms around, and we certainly hear what you've said. I know you and I've had that conversation, Councilman, even last year, and it's ongoing.
Okay. All right, so I mean, I think that all of us would agree. And I have to make a kind of comment. I think that we need to even get our own house in order, maybe before we start asking other people to do that. I kind of fret over the city not really doing, all of us, myself included, not doing enough in that vein so far as energy. I think there are other things that we can do as well. So I think maybe that's where we need to put our efforts, I mean, really, as council people, and be supportive of the state doing the same thing. Okay, is everybody okay with this? And we'll go ahead and move along. And Martha, I'm sure you and Peter, as legislative things come along, you can give us reports along the way as you learn things from the League of Cities and that type of thing. Would be nice.
I'll be meeting with Adam Putnam as a group, as the Florida League of Cities, energy group, next month.
Good, excellent.
So if you have anything you want me to deliver upon his, let me bring it on, and I'll take it to him.
And what you learned at that time, you can bring back
Absolutely,
to us. That's
sir.
good.
Thank you so
And
much.
Ashley.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add, and will you keep us on your email loop too, on the chain, just so we're all in, we get all of the city's league's emails, but just in case there's something that you need to bring up, let us know too, so we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Well, and so I guess I would leave you with, as soon as you find out who you're going to be working with, we'll have fun.
We will. It'll be busy starting right after the election in November. It'll get very, very busy very fast because of the fact that we aren't going to have the lead-up committee meetings that we get in years when we are not having elections. So come November, it will be fast, and I will work and coordinate with Carl as far as bringing some of those folks to you so that you have an opportunity to get to know them a little bit better and have a little dialogue.
And to kind of solidify what council's procedures are in that, just for all of us, Carl, it's probably best that when we have something that we need done legislatively, or that we want to know what's going on, go ahead and contact you. You can be that liaison, because instead of having 7, 8, 10 different voices being bombarding Carol there, it's probably best to have one contact person. Okay, council, we're okay with that? Good.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You do a great job. Okay, council, at this time, we have a presentation by our citizen, William Tobler, a resident of Brookside Estates. And Bill, would you like to do any
Sure.
lead in for that?
Bill Tobler and I have known each other for a few years in reference to the Brookside Estates, and I had the opportunity, along with Carl Schwing, and I believe Janet was there too, when we had the initial meeting for the widening of of Bonita Beach Road, and there were things said at a meeting that was put on by the county in reference to what was going to happen on Bonita Beach Road in terms of the widening and also how it was going to impact the neighbors. And of course, I can recall one thing that came to mind, that many of the trees that were perhaps going to be moved or left, and we were told that most of the trees were going to be left, and unfortunately, I think 97% of the trees are no longer there. But that's an example of some of the things that happen when you're trying to do a major project. And of course, it's evolved into the residents are going to have an 8-foot fence put up, and it's already under construction and moving along very well. However, there's a portion of the fence that won't cover completely the entire Westbrook estate. So that's why Bill's here, and welcome, Bill, and please make your presentation.
Good. Ms. Tobler, go ahead and carry on.
Okay, good morning, Council. My name is William Tobler. I live at 28009 Oak Lane.
And Bill, go ahead and pull that microphone a little closer to you, if you would.
Sir.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much.
How we doing?
Good. Very nice.
I'm used to talking over the phone with 2,500 people instead of people I can see.
There you go.
Okay.
It's all right.
I'd first like to thank you for listening to Brookside Estates situation and about the newly expanded Bonita Beach Road. I encourage the council to ask me questions at any time, stop me, whatever, if you don't understand. I know I can see 3 of you were not here 3 years ago when we were here under a different situation, but stop me anytime and I'm willing to answer anything. As we all know, the Bonita Beach Road expansion between Old 41 and Livingston Road is nearing completion. Brookside Estates is a residential community of about 60 families, which has frontage on Bonita Beach Road. That extends for about 800 feet. For those council members who are not here on the City Council 3 years ago, a short history of Brookside Estates is appropriate at this point. Brookside Estates was formed in 1959 and classified as residential in the Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan. 3 years ago, an individual attempted to have the comprehensive plan amended to have their property zoned as commercial. The request to amend the comprehensive plan was rejected by the Bonita Springs LPA 7-0 and by a 5-2 vote by the City Council. The residents of Brookside Estates worked very hard to defeat this request. The cost can be quantified by the lawyer's fees, but not quantified by the many hours that were put into organizing our objectives and preparing residents' arguments against the proposal. It was not an easy thing to do. Many residents had no experience in public speaking, and all of us had no experience on how the process worked. But we made our point, and that was that Brookside Estates is a residential community. It has been for over 50 years, and the Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan said so. It says so today, and thanks to the good judgment of the Bonita Springs Council, it was decided 3 years ago for that. To the residents of Brookside Estates, this property owner wanted to change the entire fabric of our community. We would talk at our meetings on how residents in other communities would feel and react if a property owner wanted to do the same. Imagine if a corner of Spanish Wells, Spanish Gardens, Mediterra, Pelican Landing, or Worthington wanted to try and break off and be commercial. We truly believe that residents and their associations would have the same reaction as the residents of Brookside Estates. And this is why we're here today. When the construction stops for the Bonita Beach Road expansion, 3/4 of Brookside Estates will have an 8-foot wall constructed to protect the residential neighborhood, affording some privacy, some security, and some relief from the noise and view of the new 6-lane Bonita Beach Road. But 1/4 of Brookside Estates will not have an 8-foot wall constructed to protect the residential neighborhood, and therefore not be allowed to have some privacy and security and relief from some of the noise and the view of the 6-lane Bonita Beach Road. Lee County considers Bonita Beach Road a major artery. That's why they keep expanding it. Every time Bonita Beach Road expands, it intrudes more and more into Brookside Estates. Brookside Estates is not expanding out, Bonita Beach Road is expanding in. One of the residents, Mr. Kurth, when he walks out to the end of his driveway, his view to the west is the 3 eastbound lanes of Bonita Beach Road, approximately 60 feet away from him. Without a wall, our homes, our backyards, and even our everyday life of coming and going from our property is open to anyone who drives by, and some people just might want to see more. We have no privacy and no security. The volume of traffic on Bonita Beach Road is the most in Bonita Springs, with the exception of perhaps 41. And this volume will certainly increase as more and more people realize that it is now 6 lanes. With this increase in traffic, many different types of people will be able to view the property of the residents of the west side of Brookside Estates. Why? Why do we believe that a wall on the other quarter of Brookside Estates is good? We believe this is for the public good. No private entity will benefit monetarily or in any other way by this. Only the Brookside Estates community and the city of Bonita Springs. All of Brookside Estates should have the benefit of privacy and security, not just 3/4 of it. The empty lots will continue to be overgrown and an eyesore to the city of Bonita Springs and to the community of Brookside Estates. And I'm talking about the 2 front lots on the west side of Brookside Estates. This property owner who does own this property will continually be cited for violations of mowing and keeping it not kept up, and nothing will change. There are funds, we also realize that there are funds in the construction budget for the continuance of the wall that was not used. Only the land would have to be purchased. Many of the residents ask me, why is one person's voice heard over 60 other voices, who, by the way, have complied with the city's comprehensive plan designation of Brookside Estates being residential, and the city of Bonita Springs ordinance of the upkeep of improved property. We keep our neighborhood pretty darn good for not being a gated community. Everybody mows their lawn. It's kept very nice, with the exception of 2 people. The front lot, and I think everybody knows the word Hancock here. So but everybody else keeps a pretty darn good property. Why is an entire neighborhood of 60 families held hostage by this one person who owns the frontage on Bonita Beach Road? How will Brookside Estates and the city of Bonita Springs benefit from the continuation of the wall? Well, first of all, the residents, privacy. The residents' property will not be seen from Bonita Beach Road. Security. If the residential property is out of sight, then it is more likely to be out of mind. Noise. Although an 8-foot wall is not an adequate height to stop the noise altogether, it may be enough to help buffer some of that noise. Finished appearance. As left as is, the entire neighborhood will look incomplete from Bonita Beach Road. If a plan for a new community was being submitted for review and the plans included a wall spanning only 3/4 of its frontage and the other quarter was to be left to whatever, would that request be questioned? Would that request be approved? Would that plan meet the city's urban design, architectural, and landscape guidelines? Would that create the special character of livability of the community as expressed in the City of Bonita Springs vision statement? Aesthetically correct. The same type of wall would be used. There is money in the budget for the same design of the wall. The same wall was offered to me by the City of Bonita Springs and Lee County to put up on my property line to protect me from Bonita Beach Road. The problem is, I'm 200 feet off of Bonita Beach Road. What you would have is 600 and some odd feet of wall coming from the east side of Brookside Estates towards the west, and then it would jog in 200 feet and then protect my house. First of all, that would look a little ridiculous, and second of all, it would not help Mr. Kurth, because Mr. Kurth lives very, very much closer to the Bonita Beach Road, and as I said before, when he walks out to his driveway, he's looking at eastbound traffic of Bonita Beach Road approximately 60 feet away, and that would not help Mr. Kurth at all. Compliance. Completing the wall would comply with Bonita Springs' desire to keep residential neighborhoods intact and to promote a high quality of life with the stabilization of existing neighborhoods and economic vitality of the community. City image. I've heard that there is a desire for Bonita Springs to begin paving roads in the city that have now been basically gravel and limestone. The roads in Brookside Estates were exactly like that a few years back. Paving these roads will not only improve the lives and property values for the residents, but also improve the city's image, and thus make Bonita Springs a much more desirable place to live. I get back to Brookside Estates. 7 years ago, Brookside Estates residents got together and paid out of their own pockets to have the road paved. No one has regretted this investment. In fact, we all wonder why it took us so long to get around to doing it. We ate limestone and gravel dust for many, many years. Okay, there's a situation of increased traffic potential. Westbrook Drive will only have a wall on one side of it. The road will look more like a through road than a residential road into a community, and we only have one exit. We have cars continually coming in and either going around the loop and going right out, or making a U-turn right in the fork in the road that we have, which separates Oak Lane from Westbrook Drive. A living environment. A barrier from Bonita Beach Road will provide a more suitable living environment for the residents of Brookside's community. And investment. Just as the city of Bonita Springs has ordinance to keep the city safe and clean, lighting is installed, roads are paved, barriers are built so that residents have privacy and security, building and codes are enforced, fire and police are maintained, the city has a comprehensive plan to how the city is to develop and so on. Each one of these is an investment in the city and its residents. Okay. The residents of Brookside Estates believe their community is a good investment too. Okay, I want to move back to one thing here. Okay. Going back to the original part of the owner who has the property on the west side of Westbrook, which is the area that is not going to be.
Okay, Mr. Tobler?
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to check with you and see. You're at about 10 minutes now. Do you have much more?
About 3 minutes.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Thank you very
I
much.
just
Just
wanna finish
checking
this
in with
part
you.
because this is where I make my
Very
real push.
Good, good. Looking forward to that. Go right ahead.
Okay. I could have come with petitions too, and I could have brought Mr. Hancock, and you would have been stuck here for all day.
You might as well. Everybody else has, so come on.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
We come down to the real situation, and that is that there's 3 vacant lots on the west side of Westbrook. And the 4 city council members are well aware of this. The 3 new ones, okay, this is Mr. Demarest. Okay, and at this point in time, he is unwilling to allow any wall, shrub, or fence to border his property. All right. He is continually cited for mowing violations, as I said before. Okay, and he is unwavering in his position. He has left us, the residents of Brookside Estates, no alternative than to ask the city for the following. And we propose, from the residents of Brookside Estates, that the city of Bonita Springs purchase the entire or portion of the 2 front lots that border Bonita Beach Road and complete the wall. We believe this is a good idea. As the reasons I cited before, it will help the community. It'll help the residents, certainly of Brookside Estates. But doing 3/4 of the job just doesn't seem right. And this is the second busiest road in Bonita Springs. And at times, I think it's busier than a 41. 41's wider, and it's not as contained. Bonita Beach Road is a very contained road, and now it's 6 lanes pushing into Brookside Estates. And we need some relief. We have nowhere to go other than look out. In fact, it was kind of funny. Dale Kurth and a few other residents and I were standing in front of Dale's house I think it was Sunday night, and it was about 10:30. And Dale turned to us and said, "You know something? This sounds funny." And what was funny was there was no noise. There was no traffic. There was no traffic to watch go by and look in at us. It was kind of a unique experience. But at 10:30 at night, that's when we finally start to get some relief. It starts at 5:30. I'm awake at 6 because I hear the trucks going down that road. And it's 10:30 at night, it finally subsides. I know a wall will not buffer all the sound, but it will help. I know that people look down that road, and they come down our road all the time, and they look around, and we have no privacy, we have no security. From an Lanai, I look out and I can count the cars. So I would hope that the Bonita Springs Council will take this into consideration and look into it. Is there any questions?
Good deal. Mr. Tobler, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Comments from staff. So far as where you've been to, tell us about your journey along these lines and why that wall wasn't done,
Right.
etc.
And we appreciate Mr. Tobler coming in and chatting about this because it has been a journey with some frustration along the line. As he indicated, this property, the Demarest property, is the property that is in question. The county has indicated that they cannot put a wall up on their right-of-way, on the county's right-of-way, because of a couple of reasons. Number one, because there are utilities underground there and they cannot install the wall with the appropriate foundation with the utilities in the way. Second, they don't feel that they didn't buy property for a wall or for a retention pond, which they did east of that location. And then the third thing is that Mr. Demarest just does not want a wall. As Mr. Tobler indicated accurately, he doesn't want a wall anywhere on his property, so he's not about to give any permission. The county has indicated in multiple meetings and discussions that we've had with them, Councilmember Longcart was involved in one of those meetings, where the project manager, Sarah Clark, was on site, that the county does not see, did not project-wise see a need for any property to be purchased there by the county. They're not going to build a wall, and pretty much the county has indicated that if a wall goes up, if Mr. Tobler were to allow a wall to go on his property farther away from Beach Road, that the county would be still a party in paying for that wall, just as they have before, which is 50-50 between the city and the county. But at this point in time, with Mr. Tobler not feeling that that the wall would be appropriate for the reasons he's already given you today, that it wouldn't be appropriate to be on his property, with Mr. Demarest to date not being cooperative at all, and the county not seeing the need to purchase the property, we are frankly at a stalemate here. And that's why Mr. Tobler is before you today, I'm sure.
And the other thing that kind of hampers this a little bit or makes it a little more interesting is that you don't, even if you wanted to buy it, you don't have a willing seller.
You do not have, I do not believe you have a willing seller. No.
Yeah.
I do not.
So there you have it. It would be condemning somebody's property in whole or in part in order to build a wall. And that's where your suggestion, if the city decides to consider that.
And that's pointing out that after Kilo, when you talk about dealing with a purchase, if this was a standalone project, now I realize it's related to the road widening, but if it's treated as a standalone project, the argument could be made that the statute would, 73014, which is in the condemnation statutes, it's in the green sheet, would come into effect, and we are prohibited by state law, which is one of the reasons why we have Carol Green, watching out our interests, because they adopted that after the Kilo case because they were concerned of, people taking private property for blight. Now, I assisted Councilman Longcart in the drafting of this green sheet. I probably wouldn't surprise based on the staff recommendation, but I think, council, before they take any action, especially if it's something of involuntary nature of the property owner, may want to look at the cost associated, not just the cost of condemnation, but the cost of, the physical wall and everything else to determine whether or not council's even interested in a standalone project.
Council, if I could make a suggestion to get us down the road a bit here on this, perhaps if we could go ahead and ask our staff to go ahead, put some numbers together. Let's say that we are successful in a condemnation or buying the property or a segment of the property. We need to know what cost there is before we even do any investigation as to whether we can or not. Would that be okay? That'd be kind of a first step in that? Would that be all right?
Yes.
Okay. Question from Martha.
Yeah, I did talk to Audrey about this months back, and the way that the lots are configured, they're two that are fronting Bonita Beach Road and one that fronts Westbrook. I asked if there was the ability to condemn, have a condemnation, or acquire somehow an easement between those lots.
And you would be looking at severance damages at that point if we had to go through condemnation process.
Is it more or less than doing the whole thing?
Sometimes severance, depending on the situation, can cost more.
Okay, well, anyhow, I'd like to know if we
Because
could
then it's
explore that
affecting
issue.
not just that one lot, it's affecting
Three.
the other, right.
Well, it just seems to me if you buy 15 feet over 100 feet, cost less. That seems like common sense, but it might not be. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I think that the best thing to do is if you can just go ahead and put together some scenarios and then we can go ahead and decide whether or not to proceed or not. And again, thank you for the gentleman for the presentation. Okay, you need anything other than just a head nod? That'd be all right? Good. All right, Council, we are at the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda? We have A through E. Is there anything on the consent agenda that you would wish to pull at this time?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slechta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Okay, we are to public hearings. Audrey.
Thank you. And the first public hearing, this is the first public hearing for an enactment of a development agreement with Bonita Fort Myers Corporation, a Florida corporation for the Naples Fort Myers Greyhound Racing and Poker Facility in the event slot machines are approved in the referendum. I have the affidavit of publication dated that was shown in the September 12th, 2012 news press, and it is legally sufficient. You have the latest draft of the agreement, I believe it's September 3rd draft, and you have a summary of the terms that we have come to date. There are some still things that are outstanding that we're working on, and we'll continue to work on them.
Okay, good. And in this process, there is a public hearing, there is public comment?
That's right.
Okay, good. Council, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and take public comment right out of the gate here. If anyone wishes to speak on this matter, please come forward. This is on item A. Hello.
Hello.
There you go.
Hi. I am Ruth Oberholzer. I am Hampton Inn. I am Bonita Springs, and I am tourism. I came from East Peoria, the Hampton Inn, at the riverboat. The riverboat was small, so it wasn't a Las Vegas type operation, but it did bring tourism. It did bring revenue. It did bring people who would have never dreamed of coming to East Peoria. How many of you all have been to East Peoria? Point well taken.
I've been to West Peoria.
Let me address that. East Peoria had better revenues. In fact, I actually had the Convention Bureau stop in my hotel wanting to know if our figures were accurate because they were so high. Now that's a blessing. I'll address 4 things, and I make it short and sweet. I am from the great state of New Jersey, so I talk in outline form. Security. My hotel was adjacent to the riverboat parking lot. The riverboat provided security. I had so much security, no one would ever dream of doing anything off color around that area. Tourism. I had people spending one more day. They would come to a conference. They would come on a meeting. They would come whatever. Families would join them while they were in my hotel going to the riverboat. They would ask, where can I shop? Where can I eat dinner? Where can I go to the movies? Where can I extend my stay? All I did was collect money and make them happy. Another great thing was I could turn off and on this revenue. If I had a major group in, I didn't take them. I didn't have room. If I had nothing going on, like a hot day in July, August, or September in Bonita Springs, I opened the door. I did packages. And I collected the money. And I made people happy, and they came back. It also established a name for our area. We shared riverboat business with sports teams, with the 14-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, the 8-year-olds, the 6-year-olds. They got along. They were like any other hotel guest. I could not tell people coming in the front door whether they were there for the riverboat, corporate meeting. Obviously, I could tell the sports teams. So, and on some days, I wish there were riverboat instead of sports teams, but it was all good. Again, I don't want to overtalk. If anyone has any questions, if anyone needs any figures, I'd be happy to entertain them. I'd be happy to speak. The only thing I can say is 2 years ago when I came to this town, I flew into the airport and I said, I'm going to Bonita Springs. And the first person I said that to said, where? Well, that's changed a lot over the last 2 years and hopefully more. So my hat off to you all. I've worked with all of you in one form or another. Let's increase tourism.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Anyone else like to speak this time? Please come forward.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Barbara Havenick, and my family has been a part of this community since the 1970s when my father bought the dog track. This has been home for us, and we're excited about the prospect of a new opportunity for both our family and for Bonita Springs. My youngest son, I'm proud to say, is living over here, so if anybody wants to fix him up, that's fine with me. I'm trying to get him married. And
by the way, he's loving that right now.
Yeah.
I bet.
He's very handsome.
Michael, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, good.
This is going out live.
Since the day my father opened the doors at the dog track, we formed a bond with Bonita Springs and Lee County, and we've always been committed to being good partners with you. I think supporting the interlocal agreement will get us nearer to our promise to provide jobs for the people of Bonita Springs. So we hope you support it. That is why I hope you will join me and my family in supporting this, as it establishes a revenue sharing agreement between Bonita Springs Entertainment Center, that's us, and the city of Bonita Springs. It's good for you. It's good for us, and it brings us closer to the vision that my husband, my late husband, Fred, who most of you know, and my father wanted for us. It's a great opportunity for all of us, and I want to just take this opportunity to thank you for all your support for the people of Bonita Springs.
And thank you.
Thank you
very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Send Michael up. Girls might want to see what he looks like.
I get nervous when you laugh before I get up here.
Oh, yeah.
She was saying send Michael up so the...
Michael's a cute guy right there. I'm Izzy Havenick, and just real quick, I want to thank Carl and Audrey again. They've been great. I just want to address a couple things that were said earlier. The gentleman spoke about 8% being normal revenue sharing. He's right. That's what states get. Most cities do not get anything unless it trickles down from the state. In Florida, I know we've discussed it, but I'll just say it again. In Florida, the way the Constitution was written, cities and counties are not allowed to tax slot machine facilities. So that's why we enter into this voluntary revenue share agreement. I can tell you that Carl has tried very hard to up numbers and figures and stuff, but after going back and forth, we've stayed standard with what every other city and county in the state has entered into for financial terms. But we've also included the most favored nations clause, that if anybody else comes in and negotiates a better deal, there's not even a negotiation. Carl picks up the phone and he yells at me, and that's the end of it. So I just wanted to share that with you. Also, just so everyone's aware, the slot machine industry in Florida is the highest taxed business by far. It's just shy of 40% of our gross revenue goes to the state of Florida. That doesn't include what goes to the city. That doesn't include what goes to counties. So that's something to keep in mind when we were discussing this. You know, one of my father's favorite sayings was, bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. It has to be a deal where we could all live and all work together. So that is why we are where we are today. And just thank you all again for all of your time. I know I've bothered all of you a lot. I'll continue to bother all of you a lot. I guess if the man gets his way, when it's campaign contribution time, I guess you'll be the only elected officials who don't call us, but we'll still be speaking to you plenty, I'm sure. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time, please come forward.
Yeah, Ron Pure. I didn't expect to be here. By the way, a few of us are going to BSU, and we have a meeting with BSU at 11 this morning. We're going to pick up where we left off before you folks made the decision to extend their franchise.
Okay, and this is in regards to
All right,
the
I just
gambling,
want to
okay?
make it clear to you that we're still
I just want to
working.
make it clear to
We're
you
still
that you're
moving
supposed to talk
forward.
about this.
Okay.
Good.
I don't know what the level of taxation is from the state levied on the gambling casinos or the slot machine enterprises. However, much of it is based on net, not gross. We're seeking gross here. Now, if...
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, okay. Now, then the franchise fee is based on net and not gross. And if it is in their case, then they should perhaps reread the bylaws or the statute. The other thing that I hadn't mentioned the first time out is that I think the city is suggesting that we give the operator a credit on whatever fees that the city would customarily charge the outfit before they open. And we would oppose that as well, because I think that just digs into the revenue that we should be deriving from this enterprise. And again, just to underscore, I think the percentages that we've talked about now, clearly, if I understood the previous speaker correctly, if someone else comes to town and offers a better deal than they do, then all he has to do, all the city manager has to do is call him and yell at him, and he'll get up to that level, if I didn't misunderstood what was said now, or understand what was said. That being the case, I think it's incumbent upon the administrators to move forward and negotiate the best possible deal based on their gross slot revenue, and not lose sight, just to restate, of all of the other entities, the ancillary operations that are going to be benefiting by this location of slot machines in the city. And we'll stand firm on that, and I hope you folks will as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Rick Steinmeier. Back in 1948, I was a little kid then, but my aunt and uncle and grandmother purchased a little restaurant on Old 41 called the Anchor Barbecue. It was like a 20 by 20 with the sides opened up and a little barbecue pit in the back. Well, they ran that as a mom and pop operation, and built on and added on, and to eventually become a top-notch, the best restaurant in the county, winning many awards for the restaurant. But they could not receive a liquor license without a competing license. And when the dog track opened up for a training track, they had a liquor license, and my uncle could get his liquor license and bring booze to Bonita. So my relationship with the dog track goes back a long way. We used to go in, one of my brothers and I used to go into the track and play with the dogs and stuff. It was quite an experience as a kid. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Deborah McLean with the Banana Peel. Many times I've heard people come before City Hall and they have not truly researched and their statements are not correct. David J. made a statement that we should tax the dog track 8%, not knowing he didn't have all his ducks in a row. And Ron Pure just made a statement about we've got to charge some things that we have just waived for every other business in town. We're waiving impact fees. If we're going to be business friendly, it's not just the Havnachek and the dog track. It's across the board. So please, when I understand that you listen to a lot of things, I'm actually speaking to the people who come before you. Please be better researched before you open your mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Okay, just as a matter of clarification, Audrey, a couple of things. The gross net, would you like to explain that?
Yes, and that's a statutory term, and it does include credits in, credits out, promotional credits, and a few other things to get to where you get the net slot revenue. And the net slot revenue is the annual gross. So, I mean, the way the machines work, as I understand it, is they are programmed to give a certain amount of percentage of wins that are out there, so people have excitement when they're playing. The way I'm seeing payouts, roughly around 90% is the machine. So that's money that comes in, comes out. So when you're gambling, you do get, some people get something, some people don't, but throughout the process. So the net slot revenue is what is actually used by Florida Department of Revenue. And incidentally, Florida Department of Revenue has a wonderful website on slot machines giving you all the statistics. And if you look at me looking at my computer, that's what I'm looking at right now, blown up so I can read it. So I can tell you at Flagler monthly, they range around $6 million in net slot revenue, of which they do have to give approximately 1/3 to the state of Florida. And they do have these side agreements with both the county and the cities, if there's a city where it's located, in this case, City of Miami. We have looked at the different, Mr. Swing and I have looked at the different agreements, so I can tell you we have asked for better. We can't get better. We have tried. We did have a most favored nations clause added into the document. But I mean, at that point, we have to see what the revenue, but it does look like there will be real revenue. Mr. Pure also made a comment about the development fee cap. This is not money that the city is giving to the Haveniks. The Haveniks are providing us with the 1.5% revenue, but in addition to that, as they seek modifications to their facilities, because it's a 100-acre facility, as they go for development orders to make the buildings look prettier, to go through things, the development fee cap is how much they have to continue to pay the city, okay, if you're understanding, but they want to make sure that the city doesn't suddenly change their impact fees to some god-awful dollar amount, so they want some assurances of the final dollar amount. So that's where the development fee cap is. At this point, we don't have a development fee cap number for you. I can tell you staff has worked up a number and staff is still reviewing it. It came out of community development because we're looking at how much is our building fees, how much are our impact fees, how much are they going to be in a few years, worried about those type of things also, because we don't know when they're going to pull their permits. And those numbers are right now, I believe, in Lisa's shop being reviewed, and then Carl will provide it to the racetrack once we have a better number or an idea of the number. But the objective of that development fee cap is not to give them money. The objective is so that we don't start asking for more money, more money, more money, because that's what, as businessmen, what they are afraid of as a city. This is a long-term agreement. And all development agreements are long-term. I know Councilman Longcart has several in his district, sections 1 and 2, and he has read them, and has looked at the different ways of improvements. And I can tell you, during some years, some of that money did help the city where other revenues probably were not available because we did have those development agreements in place. It does provide assurances. I will tell you a concern I have with the agreement is that we are not married to forcing them that they have to go out of the box in 5 years or 2 years you're going to see a development pop up. I believe the development will be gradual. It may be faster. That would be great, but it's listed there. They agreed that they will continue with a complementary style of all the facility buildings, but they did not want to be married to any particular style, which we have done in the past. However, we do have the Bonita Beach Road Corridor Ordinance, which we adopted in 2002, of which will be binding on them. So it will go before our architect, who will have to make sure it meets all the visual requirements in Chapter 3 I think it's 600, the design standards that the city has in place. So we do have requirements specific for Bonita Beach Road Corridor, which this property is part of. We are not allowed under development agreement to adopt new laws. That's one of, we can do it under this agreement, but we either have to have their consent that they're going to agree to it, or we have to follow the statutory process, which is very difficult. You have to pretty much show that there's a public health safety problem and why you need to adopt something in the future. So those are, the pitfalls of a development agreement. I can tell you that the numbers that we have in this agreement, the county stops at the 1.5%, where we do have the ability. We don't know what the annual gross is going to be in different years, or how this facility will be received compared to the other ones we reviewed, which is mostly on the east, well, all on the East Coast, because that's where the gambling is. But we did look at them, so I think we do, and we did look at many articles dealing with some of their experiences that they, the different cities had to deal with, so that we could add things in the document.
Okay, good. Carl?
Just for clarification, on the development fee cap, that is a protection for the city to assume that something's going to happen there. In other words, we are not going to give them a credit before they build anything. What's going to happen is if they come in and propose a development, and right now they're proposing either renovating or building new close to 480,000 square feet of space, and again, there's no guarantee they'll do that. There's not required to. But if they do and they bring in the documents, they are going to pay the review fees. They are going to pay the impact fees. And once they put the slot machines in and the city starts getting revenue back, then at that time we will start giving them reimbursements for some of these review items that they had to front. So there's no risk on the city side in terms of that issue. We're not putting money out for something that may not get built.
Good.
Okay?
Good. Any other clarification before we go to questions?
Just one, and hopefully it's a minor, but I'm not totally sure it's a minor. I know I talked with Councilman McIntosh briefly one day, and I know at meetings he did ask that we refer to the old 41 area under a different name. I do have a different name in this document, so I kind of need to just go with the old redevelopment area. Okay, so I'll have that changed.
All right, good. Okay, council, before we send this to second reading, are there any questions or comments?
No.
Okay.
I'll move it to the second meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to get real clear on this. The development fee cap, by the way, we've lowered impact fees over the years, right? We've waived impact fees. Fear not, we're not the East Coast, okay? But the time frame, you had mentioned something about a time frame, Audrey, of 5 years. Is
No,
that is that just, or some kind of time frame? Is that so we're forcing them to build something to get out of the ground, or after 5 years that development fee cap disappears, or
No.
can you clarify that?
Go ahead,
The
Audrey.
only 5-year increment in there is to have a rolling 5 years. In the event that they do build something huge, the Taj Mahal, we have a rolling so that it's 30 years plus an automatic 5, it can come back every 5 years to add the additional to the development agreement so that it stays continuous, which is to the city's benefit because you probably want that 1.5% more than 30 years.
Sure, okay.
I don't plan to be here, but I'm sure somebody 30 years from now in my seat will appreciate that.
Well, I think this is a pretty good agreement. Is do we need to come up with that cap, that specific number before we approve of it?
Remember, the statute requires 2 public hearings. This is your first public hearing. You have another public hearing in 2 weeks.
I think that says a lot there. And I'm somewhat shocked that somebody who I've seen for the last 10 years advocating cutting taxes is recommending we tax somebody, actually 2 guys. So it sounds to me like 43% of their taxes are going to be going to somewhere else, maybe more than that. That's somewhat shocking, but anyhow, I think we're working in the right direction. I want to thank staff for doing a great job. Oh, neon. Remember we talked neon?
We did talk neon. Whatever we have in our ordinances is what would be allowed. I don't believe neon is allowed in most areas, other than, like, I believe we allow
open signs, closed signs.
Not exposed. Now, interior, they can have neon.
Oh, absolutely. But I think for the public's benefit, that they should know this isn't going to be, you know, spotlights and flashing signs
where
and
we
at
have dark
Las
sky.
Vegas on the corner. That it will be attractive how, you know, they decide to do within our framework.
And one of the interesting things is that when we prepared the actual advertising height, which was never an issue for this agreement, had to be put in the advertisement. And that was the first time I had a discussion, but we determined that it was a non-issue. So that was good.
Okay, good. We've got a motion. Thank you. We have a motion of a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh? Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Okay, do you have a time certain for the,
Yes, it'll be the next hearing, October 3rd, 2012, at 5:30 in these chambers.
thank you very much. Okay, let's go to the next item, item B. Second reading of an ordinance.
Thank you. I'll read the title block into the record. This is an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs amending Section 14 of Bonita Springs Ordinance Number 0214, aid to new construction fee banking, to allow banked fees by resolution to be used by a city-operated or city-sponsored economic development program and providing for an effective date. This is a second reading. The first reading was held on September 5th, and council moved it forward. Carl Schwing can explain the purpose of the ordinance if you have any questions.
Carl?
Thank you. Just very briefly, reminder of what's going on here. The city has been paying approximately $49,000 a year for a significant amount of time for properties that the city owns to reserve capacity with BSU. This proposal will allow us to save that $49,000, which will go into the general fund. It's not for economic development. That $49,000 saved will go into the general fund. Then what will also be created then is, or actually expanded, is the pool of credits that BSU is already allowed and already exists under the current franchise for affordable housing will be expanded to add credits in for economic development as well. And we think this is a good idea. We get to save money on the city side. Credits are put into a pool that the city council will authorize on specific economic development projects for BSU to issue. So the council has control of the credit pool, and we think it's a good a situation for BSU as well as the city. We are recommending approval at this time.
So just to paraphrase, we don't have to pay the maintenance fees anymore, and we get to bank and keep the credits and use them elsewhere and transfer them wherever we want
Anywhere
to for
in the
economic
city.
purposes.
That is
Anywhere in the
correct,
city.
sir.
Yeah. Does anybody not like that?
Of course, but I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
September be the last month we pay the fees?
I believe so. I think once this is adopted, the franchise changes, and yes. I think so. We may have to pay them still in October. That will be a timing issue, and I guess whenever the ordinance is effective.
October 19th is the earliest effective date.
Well, BSU would have to give us 19
come up?
days credit, I would think.
You're like a stalker. You were just like sneaking up there. You,
just
you can
hover
just walk
in,
up.
in case y'all need me. We'd have to...
Closer to the mic, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We would need to confirm with BSU, but how we had set it up, we have a list of various properties, and we had initially thought once this is in effect, or at the very next meeting, we could bring those back to you all, just to be certain, because once we do put these in the pool, it sort of changes the property somewhat. So you may want to just verify that with respect to BSU and their capacity reservations. And it does limit it for economic development and or affordable housing. So we just want to make sure y'all see a listing of the property, that everyone else is on the same page. And once we put those in there, it's my understanding that at that point, when we communicate that to BSU, that's when the monthly recurring maintenance minimum charges would cease.
And so that will come back to council.
Regardless of the ordinance timing and effectiveness, the 30-day?
Well, I mean, we still will have to, I mean, if it takes 30 days to take effect, we're going to have to obviously comply with that.
There you go.
But let's be very specific about what Lisa's speaking about here. And that is that in order to take these properties and put these credits into this pool, we are exposing ourselves to not being able to use that property. For example, let's take Bamboo. If we take these credits from that property and put them in this pool, then if we can use those credits if we put an economic development project as determined by the city council on the Bamboo property. But I will suggest to you that Mayhood, for example, which you've already indicated is going to be a park and will not be an economic development project, then maybe that's an area where you don't want to be taking credits from because you're already going to use it as a park. So you may want to just kind of be aware that we still may need to reserve some capacity there, at least until we determine what kind of hookup and connections we're going to need for whatever the council authorizes to put on there.
Of course.
Okay.
I could make a really good argument about what's an economic development project and what isn't. So that's going to be kind of a tussle for BSU to prove otherwise, I think. I'm going to go to Peter. Go
I
ahead.
just had, I guess, a quick question, quick point of clarification. Is there an immediate effect option here?
No, our charter would require us to have 30 days on any ordinance. I do notice that I did not put an effective date in there, so I will be adding a section 3 effective date, but our charter prohibits us from going
An immediate
faster.
effect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Martha?
Is there a Florida statute, or is this just the preference of BSU to limit us on what we can do with those credits? Because, you know, I think this is great that we can have something to offer for, you know, economic development. It has to be specifically to those properties, or can we move those around? For instance, I think we moved some around when we did the Lyle's Hotel renovation, Ben. I think we moved them over to Red Hibiscus, or, you know, we're using them for affordable housing.
Okay, the response to that is the source of the credits are our properties.
Yes.
The receiver properties can be anywhere in the city that you have an economic development project you want to incentivize.
So that would be where we've waived here's an attractive program, people. We waive impact fees. We can offer you some economic development. I mean, some A&C credits.
Correct.
You can build over here. It's not attached to these properties that the city owns.
There's
Right.
mobility.
Yes,
there's
is mobility.
mobility. Okay, and the other
Absolutely.
thing is, did we buy these A&C credits?
Well, in the sense that we bought the property and the ANC fee credits were with the property, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
In that
Okay.
sense, yeah.
But not at the amount that they're valued today. Is that correct?
Well, more than likely not.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Yes, did you have some?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Well, I guess I'm going to mirror what the mayor had said before, you know, that how do you decide that the Mayhood property would not be, you're making that into a park, that's a huge revitalization of that neighborhood. So how does that not fit?
Well,
Is that
I
something
would
we
just-
can ask?
I would just caution the council
Okay.
that these were, at times, difficult discussions with BSU. They want them to be viable economic development projects where, frankly, BSU will also see a benefit on the end. Somebody's going to come in and be paying water and sewer bills someday.
Yep.
Okay, and it's putting in a park. I never got the impression that
Okay.
that was going to be an economic development project in the eyes of BSU. The final determination, and to be justified, will be done by this body right here.
Yeah. And I think your caution is be careful which ones you put in that pool.
Correct. And
Okay.
we'll bring you back a list, and we'll feel pretty comfortable about what we're going to recommend to you. But that is,
Comes the
like
voice.
Lisa said, that's another step.
Here comes
okay.
the voice of BSU.
All right, and before we go to public comment, any other questions?
Is the 49,000 being included in next year's budget yet?
Because this deal had not yet been done, the $49,000 is in the budget for next year.
It is?
Yes.
It's calculated.
It's not calculated as a saving, it's calculated as the expense as we've been spending all along. So it'll be
Oh,
this will
I
be a
see.
savings in the new budget.
So it will be calculated, it'll be, by our next budget meeting, we'll have a $49,000.
Probably not.
Well, we can do that on the first budget amendment. We can do that too.
Oh, we can anticipate. Thank
But yeah,
you.
you can anticipate savings once we determine which properties are going into the pool.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's go to, there is public comment on this, is there not?
Yes, sir.
Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, council, what's your pleasure? Would you like to go ahead and pass this? I have a motion to approve it
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh. Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman Slackton.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Audrey,
Thank
you
you,
don't have
Council.
anything else, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, we're closing in on here, council, so we'll have public comment at this time. Anyone wishing to speak about anything at all would like to come forward, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close that public comment. City Attorney's report. Audrey, it doesn't look like you have much there. Do you have something?
I do have one item, and all it is that this morning, I did send a memorandum. A report was due on the case of Konakowski versus City of Bonita Springs. This is the Department of Economic Opportunities investigation on consistency with the Comprehensive Plan Ordinance 11-02. They had a telephone hearing. This is my position paper. During the participation, I do want to point, Carl was there, Arlene, John Dolmer, Jackie Genson, I think John Gucciardo. It was quite a bit of staff assisting on that project. So you do have an answer in front of you that staff also assisted in the drafting of it. I would ask City Council, because I know that many times, especially laypersons, like to lobby council. And because this is a state investigation into the city, I would ask you to respectfully refer things back to me, or at least let me know about it, but try not to respond to requests like, you know, turn off your attack dog or whatever other things that might be said. So I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl, we are up to you.
Thank you, sir. Just have a few items. Financial report and monthly projects report have been sent to you for your review. Any questions? With no questions, we'll continue to move on. This item came up in November. Your second meeting will actually be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And the question is whether or not the council wants to go ahead and hold that meeting on that Wednesday, or if you would like to cancel it, or cancel that meeting in favor of a rescheduled meeting sometime else in that month. Council's pleasure.
City Council, what do you want to do? As far as November 21st.
I'll comment on it.
Go ahead.
Only because I always plan in advance, and I have, obviously, will be available on the 21st, but if we were to change it, I personally can't be here. I'll be on a cruise. But I
What,
realize...
on the 28th, you mean?
Yeah, I'll be away.
Yep.
I'll be somewhere.
Oh, I'm going to have fun with that agenda then.
28th it is.
It's always nice to tell
Sorry.
everybody up
Sorry.
front. That way there's no speculation, but I
It's always good, but always unwise, Bill.
well, listen, I don't have anything to hide.
I know. Thank you, sir. Council, what do you think? Do we need to go ahead because of the holidays there? Go ahead and council that meeting, reschedule it. Would you like to do that?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Would that be all right?
It doesn't
Let's
matter.
go ahead and
Are
reschedule
you
it.
outright?
I don't want to have a meeting without.
Reschedule it?
Yeah, let's not have a meeting without Bill. Wouldn't be the same.
Are we going to reschedule or just cancel it?
Well,
That's the question.
well, when you consider the workload as you got closer to it that you expect, if you don't have the workload, you don't have the meeting.
If council wants us to do that,
I
absolutely.
don't know what it would be because
We can do that.
Why don't we figure on canceling the meeting at this point? But as we get closer to that, if you find the need to do that, I mean, we get our agendas get fogged up, we can always stay fluid here. Yes?
I just want to point out that from, if you move the meeting to November 28th, it's too close to December 5th, based on the statutes for ordinance adoption. So I would not be able to use the November 28th meeting.
Good point.
Cancel.
Then
I would-
cancel.
Your call, but-
Yeah, we'll cancel the meeting, and then if we need to do something otherwise, even if it's not on,
And if it's not ordinances.
it can
we
be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever. If you need to do something,
All right.
we can always make that happen.
We
Okay?
appreciate that. And then the last item I have, at least on the list, is that an errata sheet came out to you yesterday, I believe. And we're going to leave that to Mr. Gucciardo to start an explanation. And Audrey's been involved in this as well. John?
Audrey and I tried to prepare a green sheet that's attached, excuse me, to your errata sheet that's hopefully self-explanatory. We were involved in a meeting up at the town of Fort Myers Beach regarding Big Carlos Pass, regarding some of the long-term issues with the channel outside of Big Carlos Pass. During that meeting, it was discussion took place about the emergency order that you see attached to your green sheet, which was issued as a result of Tropical Storm Isaac. There has been some indication that there has been some silting in of that channel as a result of Isaac. We have not been able to quantify that at this point, and quantifying that is absolutely essential to moving forward under this emergency order. But because of the timing on the emergency order, we wanted to bring it to your attention that the town of Fort Myers Beach has given conditional approval to go ahead with an application under this order for emergency funding to dredge at least part of that silting in. They are looking for partners. We obviously have an interest in that the northern border of our city does touch where that channel is. To a certain extent, it's within our city limits. To a certain extent, it's outside of the city limits. That's the same situation, frankly, for the town of Fort Myers Beach. But what we're looking for today is permission to go ahead and join with the town conditionally again in just filing an application on this emergency order. This does not indicate any commitment on our part to go forward, and there are a lot of questions, frankly, that we would have to have answered before we would bring that kind of a recommendation back. But because of the timing restrictions, we thought it would be appropriate to ask you today to at least start the process.
Council, and just as an aside to that, I think it's really important that we participate in this, mainly because I think that we've all, as a coast, as our region here, we've kind of missed the boat, so to speak, in that all these projects are being done as individual parts without consideration of what else is happening. I think that between us and Fort Myers Beach, and we need to get together on this to where that whole region, everyone in the pass, New Pass, Big Hickory, San Carlos, all those things, every time you do a beach renourishment, every time you do a dredging, there needs to be an overall plan where all of that is taken into consideration. There hasn't been one. It's been, well, let's just dredge here without consideration that, oh, wow, we need some sand over there. So I think, or the effects therein. So I think it's a good idea that we participate in this, and I'd like to make a pitch for that. Yeah, Stephen.
I'll make a motion to partner on a conditional basis with Fort Myers Beach, but is there a directional bore going on there now too?
Yeah, across San Carlos Pass.
Does that have any effect on how they're going to do this?
It shouldn't.
Okay, all right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Lockhart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Council. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing else there? Okay. All right. We are to mayor and council member items and reports. We have the first one here. Would anybody like to make a motion to appoint Mr.
I would.
Oh,
I'll second.
this gentleman here. We have motion and a second.
Yep.
And that's to be the alternate voting member to the Florida League of Cities. We have motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Lockhart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Congratulations, Councilman Simmons.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Bob's a twins.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start down at the end over here. And do you have anything else for us
I do
before we close up?
couple quick things. The slate of officers for the ECCL, the Estero Economic Council of Community Leaders, was approved. So our new president of the ECCL is Nick Bates. Nick has been a longtime member of the leadership of that group. And this sort of the second, I think, chair there is the director of finance, and that's Bob Leinich, also a very capable guy. This makes me very comfortable that our relationship that we built over the years with ECCL as a partner, neighbor partner, is going to continue. That's one. I'm very disappointed to tell you that I mentioned earlier that our only charter high school in Bonita Springs was closed last week, given notice they were going to close. The Richard Milburn Academy is a high school for students who, I would class it an alternative high school for students who can't function in the traditional high school setting. So we have 60 children enrolled in school in September, and in October they find out they don't have a school. And these aren't kids who could be transferred back to another school in the Lee County system because they've been taken out of that school. So as a charter school, they had a minimum of 120 students that needed to be on the payroll, on the as full-time equivalent students. In October, they have 60, so they're $300,000 short. At when you $5,200 from the Lee County school system for HFTE turns into approximately $250,000, $300,000. It's a travesty. It's clearly not the best interest of public education. It's one of the problems we have with this sort of system. There's very little we can do at this point. I met, when they talked about the closing, I met with the teachers, the staff, and the next day with the students. And I don't see an endpoint that is good for this. And it's a problem that you would start a school on the premise that that's going to finish the school year, and 3 weeks later shut the school down without any prior notice to the city, and apparently a letter to the county school board the day before to ask for that closing. So my comment is more a complaint as opposed to a comment, but I think it needs to be said publicly.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention. I think it is a shame for the mostly for the kids' sake. I have to. Anything else, Steve? Okay. Councilwoman Martin.
Thank you. The Bonita Springs Parks and Recreation Department is going to be hosting an indoor craft show on Saturday, November 3rd from 10 to 1. So they're looking for craft vendors to participate and also for the rest of us to put it on our calendar to go and support our local Bonita Springs crafters, our craft artists. Again, Saturday, November 3rd from 10 to 1. Also, our pool, our community pool, has the Gulf Coast swim team based there now, and that's for children ages 5 and up who want to participate in competitive swimming. And what a great place to start, and what a neat thing to have going on at our pool. So if you're interested in that and you've got kids who want to join, please contact our friendly pool staff for that. And then it's that time of year again. It's starting Friday. We're going to be selling our Adopt a Florida Quackers for our Fall River Festival, and the proceeds will benefit the Bonita Nature Place educational display, adding an educational display. Sorry. Okay. We've got 2 new things for the race this year, and that is that the ducks are $5 a piece, and this year we're going to be selling a quack pack, and that's you get 5 ducks for $20. I got a deal for you, right? That's really cool. And then what we're also adding is the First Community Bank will once again sponsor the race with cash prizes for the first 3 ducks that cross the finish line. But we're also going to have a prize for the dawdle duck, and that is the last duck to cross. And that ducky obviously needs to join our Parks and Rec fitness program. So there'll be a membership going out to the last duck to cross the line. So it's going to be a fun event. So we're just reaching out for everybody to support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, Happy New Year, Rosh Hashanah to our Jewish friends. And Bill, I'm really thrilled to hear that the Library Task Force, I guess you told me all but one, is returning, and they did such a great job before, and I'm looking forward to what's going to that same good work will continue. Our Saturday beach cleanup was well attended. Thank the city staff for everything. Lord did a great job. We saw the advertisement on TV. It was really good. And I also want to extend a special thanks to Pastor Jared Novak from the First Baptist Church, who brought a lot of his youth ministry folks there, and it was well appreciated. And really excited, our Veterans Monument has arrived yesterday, and hopefully if the weather doesn't, they're going to be putting it up today. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, what do you have for us today?
I just wanted to say thank you to city and staff and to everybody that helped organize the 9/11 services. Recently, it was the first one that I attended. Very moving, obviously very tragic situation, but I just very well done. And in a different but similar note, I did see a email. I don't know that it's been justified yet. I haven't looked into it, but I'm going to. That ABC broadcasting system has issued an inter-office memo, if you will. Of course, that's ESPN and a lot of my favorite channels, that you're not allowed to wear flags on your lapel or anything to show patriotism on your lapel. I don't know if that's true. Whether it is or it isn't, it raises a point, as you can see my American flag here, that I would encourage others to show their pride and to show their patriotism, regardless of any inter-office memo or anything along those lines. And I want to apologize for missing the beach cleanup. My son Petey has football every Saturday morning. It was not in vain. The Estero Mustangs Mighty Mites won again. They're 3-0. And another shutout, 2 out of 3 shutouts now, so things are looking good. Want to keep that up. And thank you for the appointment as the alternate for the Florida League of Cities. Attended my first meeting up in Orlando. We discussed a lot of issues, which I will bring next month after we finalize them. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Martha, what do you have for us today?
Thank you. I received an email from Forrest Banks, who's a council member and the president of the Florida League of Cities locally, about it might be of interest to our MPO leaders here, that FTOT will be making a presentation tomorrow at the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council meeting. Sorry it came yesterday, and so I couldn't tell you to plan further ahead, but it appears there might be some changes to the local urban FDOT office and maybe some downgrading of our director. And I know Mayor and council members, you've been very concerned about our transportation initiatives here. So somebody wants to be there to represent our MPO members. Warning. Okay. So that's tomorrow at 9 o'clock at the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council on Victoria Avenue. I want to compliment Councilman Simmons. He did a wonderful representation for us on the Urban Growth Management Planning Committee. And immediately, everybody warmed up to him, of course, Mr. Sunshine. And I think he'll be a great representative for us. He really just, I checked on him to see if he was doing okay. And he was right in there with the issues. So I was very proud of him, and we'll have a great leader there. Yeah, I think you'll be doing great. I've been sharing over the past couple of years my Florida League of Cities Policy Committee information with Councilman McIntosh. I gave him another booklet today about the state issues that we're looking at. But something that I haven't had, and I'd like to ask staff to make a copy of this, if you would. Maybe we can get it electronically, but this is a very good booklet. I don't need one. He doesn't need one. I think you have an extra. But I'll give this to you. This is Strengthening Florida Cities Through Effective Advocacy, and it's a 2012 advocacy guide about how to establish a relationship with your state. Not that we all need to know how to do that, but it's got some really great information about building your advocacy and your lobbying team. And, why do you want to do that, and why is that necessary? But for those who always say, well, why do we need a lobbyist? This also helps to build our city council team to be a stronger lobbying group. So I give that to you guys. I'll pass it on. In response to our good councilman, Mr. McIntosh, again, there is an alternative school called the Knox Academy in Bonita Springs. It's not a charter school. It is a private school, but they have been working with the school system, both in Collier and Lee County, to get funding. And they help for those kids, like you were saying, that the Milburn Academy was serving. They do help with those kids. I'm on their board of directors. and they're growing. They're over behind the dog track. Our development department is very helpful in making sure that they could use that facility. It's a beautiful building for their school. They are looking for a larger place. Maybe there's one possible now, but for that. So Knox Academy, kids who need to continue their education, they serve 7th to 12th grade. Fertilizer Education Program, the Cape Coral City Council has passed contributing $5,000 to an effort among your local Florida League of Cities and Council and Vice Mayor Sanibel McDenham's effort to get a local citizens education program going. And I will be bringing back later a recommendation that our Conservation Waterways Fund that we raised through Riverfest for the last 6 years will go towards that. And last thing, I've had some phone calls from people who are concerned, and emails, like I think we all had, about people concerned about the scheduling of the LPA and the homeless shelter issue, that we'll have a final meeting with citizen input. I might be incorrect about that, so I hope I am. But that we do have time to address this issue. I think we basically have until like next April, May, so that we're carefully studying and researching, I know you are, staff, the complicated, intricate issues that are involved with this. They're tangential. And so I would hope to ask that we could also have a citizens forum in November, maybe December, now that we've canceled that meeting for the city council, but that we continue to have some more citizens input when people come back from, you know, being up in their summer homes. That's it, Mayor.
Okay.
I hope the council will consider that, and I thank you for giving me all this extended time today.
Thank you very much. Bill, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Ben. The last budget hearing, I made some comments about, positive comments about things that are happening in Bonita. And in the Coastal Life, there was a picture of the new development up on Old 41, Bonita Isles, 220 new homes. And I also had read an article by D. Michael Burke about the improving real estate market in Southwest Florida. Very, very important. They are very positive things that are going to help the city. And last but not least, I provided the council people with the county's annual budget, which is this document here. And just one comment I'd like to share with you: the reserves that the county will go forward with, undesignated and designated, 670, well, gosh, I put my glasses on. $671,188,461, which will be their reserves in undesignated and designated. I only bring that up because a lot of people don't read these things, and it's important that you read them for your own edification so that you can be up on what we're doing and what the county's doing. But it's an interesting, it's done every year, so take a look at this, and that's all I have, Ben. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Council. Yes, the cleanup, the beach cleanup, the coastal cleanup went very well. I don't think it's been very well publicized maybe, but 400 people, 400 people showed up to this coastal cleanup. I mean, the most it's ever showed up. We thought a lot showed up last year. We were the highest one last year with over 200, 400 volunteers. And so I have to tell you, I got Laura, Arlene, great job. Carl, thank you for all your help. Al Greenwood for supplying over 250 hot dogs to feed those the people, or those good volunteers. Doc Beach House for giving away free breakfast to every one of those people. Amazing, amazing people. And Royal Scoop ran them out of ice cream, just about, well, there. So thank you to all those people. It's something to be proud of. And I won't goof on the county for not having the right-of-ways mowed. Oh, gee, I just did. But next time it'd be nice to have. We're going to contact the county and see if we can get them to mow the grass, so we won't have to wade through waist-deep grass. But that's another issue. Also, Patriot Day ceremonies. It was an honor to be associated with a group of people who put that together. And I think that it was for our community. I have to tell you, Stephen, that our veterans and our firefighters and everybody that's involved with putting these things together. I think we've got to be the most patriotic city in, I don't know, in the United States probably. It's very, very nicely done. And now that they're putting that monument up there, which I think you're probably going to want to talk about, it's even a prouder day. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mayor, but
That's
I had an optometrist appointment, and Dr. Morrow said to me, he said he watched the 9/11 services, and he said, you know, my home is in Naples, and you have nothing in Collier County. Bonita Springs does it best, better than any place I've ever seen it. So that's from Dr. Morrow. And one more thing, we have to thank the mayor for all of his equipment that we had at the beach cleanup. So thank you, sir.
Well, it's my pleasure. Also, one other thing, and we'll get on with this. There has been a lot of attention paid because of this council, because of this staff, the things that we have done on economic development. I'm going to tell you, people are noticing all over the state, and it's because of this public-private partnership that it seems that no one else has been able to put together. Not that it was easy for us, but it's being paid attention that we've been able to bring the fire department, the utility, BSU, our community development, our city staff, and paste them together with this economic development council that's made up of business people in the community, which gives us that private sector connection between the community, but all for the benefit of the quality of life of everyone in this community. People all over the state are paying attention, and people they're trying to break the code. And guess who they're coming to talk about it? They're asking Carl, how did you do that? And you need to be proud of that. It's an amazing thing, and it's only going to get better. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved in that. And at this time, we have approval of minutes. Would anyone like to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Roll call.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh? Aye. Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Okay, one more time, public comment. Anyone wishing to speak at this time, please come forward.
Hey, Rick Steinmeier, I'd like to thank this city for leading the way in lowering tax rates. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, anyone else? Thank you, everyone, for coming in today, and council, well done.